Seahawks just won. They beat the Rams. We're going to the Super Bowl, baby. But still got to read. Still got to focus up. But go Hawks, baby. Making and keeping commitments. At the very heart of our circle of influence is our ability to make and keep commitments and promises. The commitments we make to ourselves and to others, and our integrity to those commitments, and that are the essence and the clearest manifestation of our proactivity. It is also the essence of our growth. Through our human endowments of self-awareness and conscious, we become conscious of areas of weaknesses, areas for improvement, and areas of talent that could be developed. Areas that need to be changed or eliminated from our lives. Then, as we recognize and use our imagination and independent will to act on that awareness, making promises, setting goals, and being true to them, we build the strength of character, the being that makes promises, that makes possible every other positive thing in our lives. It is here that we find two ways to put ourselves in control of our lives immediately. We can make a promise and keep it, or we can set a goal and work to achieve it. As we make and keep commitments, and even small commitments, we begin to establish an inner integrity that gives us the self-awareness of control and the courage and strength to accept more of the responsibility for our own lives. By making and keeping promises to ourselves and others, little by little, our honor becomes greater than our moods. The power to make and keep commitments to ourselves is the essence of developing the basic habits of effectiveness. Knowledge, skill, and desire are all within our control. We can work on any one to improve the balance of the three. As the area of intersection becomes larger, we are more deeply internalized the principles upon which the habits are based and create the strength of character to move us in a balanced way toward increasing effectiveness in our lives. Proactivity, the 30-day test. We don't have to go through the death camp experiences of Franco to recognize and develop our own proactivity. It is in the ordinary events of every day that we develop the proactivity capacity to handle the extraordinary pressures of life. It's how we make and keep commitments, how we handle a traffic jam, how we respond to an errant customer or a disobedient child. It's how we view our problems and where we focus our energies. It's the language we use. I will challenge you to test the principle of proactivity for 30 days. Simply try it and see what happens. For 30 days, work only in your circle of influence. Make small commitments and keep them. Be a light, not a judge. Be a model, not a critic. Be part of the solution, not part of the problem. Try it in your marriage, in your family, in your job. Don't argue for other people's weaknesses. Don't argue for your own. When you make a mistake, admit it, correct it, and learn from it immediately. Don't get into a blaming, accusing mode. Work on things you have control over. Work on you, on B. Look at the weaknesses of others with compassion and not accusation. It's not what you're not doing or should be doing that's the issue. The issue is your own choice, a chosen response to the situation and what you should be doing. If you start to think the problem is out there, stop yourself. That thought is the problem. People who exercise their embryonic freedom day after day will little by little expand that freedom. People who do not will find that it weathers until they are literally being lived. They're acting out the scripts written by parents, associates, and society. We are responsible for our own effectiveness, for our own happiness, and ultimately, I would say, for most of our circumstances. Samuel Johnson observed, "The fountain of content must spring up in the mind, and he who hath so little knowledge of human nature as to seek happiness by changing anything but his own disposition will waste his life in fruitless efforts and multiply the grief he proposes to remove. Knowing that we are responsible is fundamental to effectiveness and to every other habit of effectiveness we will discuss. Application suggestions. For a full day, listen to your language and to the language of the people around you. How often do you use and hear reactive phrases such as if only, I can't, or I have to? Identify an experience you might encounter in your near future where, based on the past experience, you would probably have behaved reactively. Review the situation in the context of your circle of influence. How could you respond proactively? Take several months and create the experience vividly in your mind, picturing yourself responding in a proactive manner. Remind yourself of the gap between stimulus and response. Make a commitment to yourself to exercise your freedom to choose. Select a problem from your work or personal life that is frustrating to you. Determine whether it is a direct, indirect, or no control problem. Identify the first step you can take in your circle of influence to solve it, and then take that step. Try the 30-day test of proactivity. Be aware of the change in your circle of influence. New insights on habit 1. Be Proactive by Sean Covey. Growing up in my home was often painful because Dad would make us take responsibility for everything. If I came home from school and said something like, "My girlfriend makes me so mad," Dad would respond by saying, "No one can make you mad unless you let them. Sean, it's your choice." Or if I grumbled, "I can't stand my math teacher, I'm going to flunk algebra because of him," Dad would take me aside and gently say, "Sean, listen to your language. If you flunk algebra, it's your fault, not your teacher's. Instead of talking about your teacher, why not talk with him about how to improve things in class?" I think, "Are you serious, Dad? You don't get it." And then I'd go find Mom, who let me blame other people for my problems. It was a good balance. Dad was always loyal to principles, while Mom was always loyal to you. As humans, our tendency is to play the victim, and unless you're watchful, it will sneak up on you and you'll start blaming outside forces, parents, spouses, bosses, the weather, the government, circumstances, the man, whomever, for your problems. In reality, we are not victims, we're agents. We are the creative forces of our lives, and we are free to choose. When we have to be reminded of all this all the time. Many years ago, my dad asked me how work was going. I began listing my complaints. It's hard to juggle so much. The office politics are terrible. I'm totally burning out. My long commute is killing me, and on and on. I was hoping for a little sympathy. Instead, Dad looked at me disappointingly and said, "Geez, Sean, that doesn't sound like you. Why are you being such a victim? Organize your time so that you're not so busy. Don't get your head into office politics. If you don't like your long commute, then move." He then walked away. I was taken aback, but suddenly realized he's absolutely right. I'm being a victim. How does this happen? Stop it right now. It was a good wake-up call. Yes, I was free to choose my attitude, my level of busyness, my commute, and my response to everything that was happening to me. I felt so grateful for the reminder. What the data says. We now have a great deal of empirical data that backs up everything my father wrote about proactivity back in 1989. With 20 years of research behind her, Stanford professor Carl Dweck found that most people have one of two mindsets of paradigms about their ability to learn: a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. About their mindset. People with a fixed mindset believe their intelligence and talent are fixed and that there's not much they can do about it. This is a reactive view of the world. I'm not good at math, or I've never been good with people, so why try? On the other hand, people with a growth mindset believe their basic abilities can be developed and enhanced through dedication and hard work. A belief that they are in the driver's seat and can, therefore, improve and change. This proactive view of the world results in proactive thinking and language. I need to get better with my numbers, or I can be more considerate of my partner. In like manner, Dr. Martin Seligman Mann, the distinguished director of the Positive Psychology Center at the University of Pennsylvania, explores the benefits of focusing on your circle of influence. In this book, Ethnic's Happiness, he concludes that your happiness depends on 1, genetics, 2, circumstances, and 3, things you can control. However, his research found that genetics and circumstances have less to do with happiness than the third category, the things you can control. So to be happy, Seligman Mann suggests focus on things you can control. And then we have Angela Duckworth, also a professor of psychology at the University of Pennsylvania, who backs up the idea that resourcefulness and initiative are key predictors of success. Over many years, she studied children and adults in challenging environments, including West Point military cadets, natural spelling bee contestants, and rookie teachers in difficult schools. In each study, her research team asked the question, who is successful here and why? Across numerous contexts, one characteristic emerged as a significant predictor of success: grit. In her book, Grit, The Power of Passion and Persuasiveness, Duckworth examines how grit is the quality that allows an individual to work hard and maintain focus, not just for weeks or months, but for years. I couldn't agree with Duckworth more. In my role as an executive, I've hired hundreds of people. I used to consider an applicant's GPA, the school they attended, and the information on their resume. Now I focus on 2 things: how well they get along with other people, and the way they exercise R and I. And for what Duckworth calls grit, if they score high on R and I and display grit and a growth mindset, I'm confident they will succeed. In fact, gritty is now an official characteristic on our hiring profile form. I'm gonna stop there. But one thing to talk about, especially in this later thing, is the 3 characteristics that contribute to, or at least in the book of an author, that contributes to happiness. One is genetics, circumstances, and things you can control. I think it nailed it on the head on if you can control certain things in your life, or at least the things you know you can control, it will make you a lot happier. And that kind of ties into what he was saying earlier in the book about making small improvements in your life, even listening to your language, or to the language that of people around you. One, who's the people that you're around. If you're around a whole bunch of people that are always negative or using negative tones, or people who are irresponsible, there's a very good chance that you're gonna inherit that level of mindset. But if you're around people that are not so negative, they're well-spoken, they're positive, they have a good mindset, or they have a good head over their shoulders, I think it goes a long way. But also, one thing I wanted to notice, and it was at the start of this chapter, was making commitments and promises, but keeping to them. And even that kind of goes into what I was saying earlier about making small improvements, or making small commitments and promises to yourself, saying, hey, lately my language hasn't been the best, so one thing I'm going to commit myself to is say something positive. I'm going to wake up every single morning and say, hey, I'm going to have a good day, instead of saying, hey, oh my gosh, I have to wake up early and dread the day. No, and wake up early, have a good positive mindset, and make a commitment and a promise to yourself that you're going to make that happen. And yeah, I think that was some cool takeaways from this chapter.